You know, a lot of people on my channel know this, Kareem, that the iPad Pro has completely replaced the Mac for me.
Yeah.
And it's the device that I love most. So I guess maybe we can start off by talking about the specs of the new iPad Pro.
Let's do it.
The iPad Pro comes in both a 13-inch model and an 11-inch model, and it has the all-new M4 chip. But I think what really makes it, you know, next level is not even necessarily the chip, because I feel like all the iPads are relatively powerful.
For sure.
Right? You
never, swipe or watch content or do something on an iPad and feel like it needs a better chip.
Yeah, yeah. Like performance has never been an issue with iPads. But I think what the killer feature of the iPad Pro specifically is its display. So you want to go over a little bit about the display, Kareem?
Yes, so for a lot of content creators, if you're creating content, you want your display to be P3 accurate, very bright, and very dark blacks, very vibrant colors, and that's what the MacBook Pro gives you. That's what a lot of Apple devices give you, but on this M4 iPad Pro, this has a Tandem OLED liquid Retina XDR display.
Ultra Retina XDR.
Ultra,
They're so confusing with their names. It's like the Air, which we'll talk about in a second, is the liquid Retina display. Before this was always the Retina XDR display. And I think this year they updated it to Ultra Retina XDR display.
Right, so Tandem basically means double. So they've stacked two displays on top of each other to achieve very high contrast, very good brightness, and very sharp detail with amazing colors.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to, like I said, the display, it's stunning. It's beautiful. If you've seen my iPad Pro review, then you've heard me talk a lot about the display. It's great. It's one of those things that I will say is the mini LED display that was on the M2 iPad Pro was no slouch. That alone was a great display. And I think a lot of people are not necessarily going to notice the difference right away when they compare the iPad Pro, the M4 one, with the M2 iPad Pro with the mini LED display. But I do think that once you get used to it, you're going to love it. And I think for content creators specifically, that P3 white color display is going to be a game changer for them. Because like you said, when it comes to color accuracy, this shows it, right? There is another option, which is the Nano texture display glass. I don't think it's worth it.
I really
don't. I think the same thing, especially because it's only offered in the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte models.
To me, that was the most disrespectful thing they could have done.
Really?
Yes, because dude, you have things like Paperlike for $20, $30. I can put it on, but you're making me spend $300-$400.
I personally still like the the glossy display. I think the colors look way better and nicer in this. You don't get that grainy effect, and I think for most people, this glossy display is going to be better. And I think the nano texture is great for those who go outdoors a lot. Maybe you're a photographer and you're doing photo shoots outside and you want to view the content on your iPad. I can understand because it drastically reduces glare, but I think for most people that's not going to make a big difference. So speaking of the display, the one thing I love about the iPad Pro is the ProMotion display with the 120 Hz. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, again, for us content creators who notice things like this, it's very important. I have the studio display, but it has 60 hertz. And it doesn't bother me as much because the colors are so beautiful, but on a Pro device that I'm using every single day, I think it's crucial for things to move very fast and quickly. And that's what I like about these Pro devices. But I wish you would have that option on the other more affordable iPads. You don't. For most people, though, you're not going to notice the difference between 60 hertz and 120. It's just how fast things move, and it's a snappier way to use your device. But I guess that's why they call it Pro.
That's right.
Same with the M2 or the MacBook Air, 60 hertz, MacBook Pro, 120 hertz. So
once again, it's one of those things that if you have an iPad Air, for an example, or just a standard iPad, and you don't have that 120 hertz display, you're probably like, my display works fine, or my device works fine, the display is great. But once you get used to the ProMotion display, it's hard to go back.
Absolutely.
And I remember when Apple first introduced the iPad Pro back in, I believe, 2018 with the ProMotion display. That's when it first came out, and they made a big deal about it. And I remember I bought it, and I'm like, okay, it seems faster. I mean, I don't know what difference this is going to make. And after a couple months, when I used one of my friend's iPads without the 120 hertz display, I was like, why does this feel slower?
Exactly. It has a slight delay.
Yeah, there's a slight delay. So I'm glad that the iPad Pro has that ProMotion display.
Yes.
But moving aside from the display, it also has the M4 chip, which gives you up to 10 cores of CPU and 10 cores of GPU. That makes no difference in my day-to-day workflow whatsoever. It's a fast machine, but to be honest, the M2 iPad Pro was also a fast machine. You're not going to find a difference. And I said this in my iPad Pro review also. that if you're, video rendering, if you're editing a video and it's rendering 5 seconds later than what it would be on an M2 chip, does that really make a difference?
Not at all. Not at all. Because while it's rendering, I can go eat lunch. I can eat a snack. Especially when it's photo or video editing. If you're doing homework, there is going to be no delay. It's done immediately.
That's why I don't even like talking about the chips on the iPad Pros, because ultimately I think it's based on, the iPad is so based on its software.
Yeah.
And the software, I don't think it's taking full advantage of the AM4 chip, if I have to be very honest. And I think that's been a major concern for a lot of people, that iPad OS is great, right? But is it truly taking advantage of the power that M4 brings, right?
And this is something I discussed in the video I made about this iPad Pro. The iPads only get the base model chips, M2, M4. They don't get the Pro or the Max versions, nor the Ultra. So they're good devices, but they're not the most pro devices you can buy. Hence why the iPad was never made to replace the MacBook, but you can make it a similar experience with that new keyboard they've redesigned.
That is correct. And also, the iPad Pro is the only iPad with Face ID.
It's the only one?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, guys. I didn't know that. I thought this one had Face ID.
Nope. They all have Touch ID.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I know. And to be honest, once you're used to Face ID, it's almost difficult to use Touch ID, because when you have Face ID, open this up, hit the space bar, and I'm in my home screen, right? And or if I'm using it like this, I just tap the screen and I just swipe up and I'm in, right? But with the iPad Air, you always have to look for this and then have your finger touch the Touch ID button, and then you have to be in, right? So it's that additional step you have to take. And also, like for example, if you're holding it this way, right? Then you have to make sure that this finger is also optimized for Touch ID, because it's closest to Touch ID, right?
Wow, that's something not a lot of people think of.
Yeah. So and that makes a difference, and I feel like even with other applications that you're using, like for example, when I go on YouTube or certain applications and it needs to, authenticate, right? Yeah. When it's Face ID, it just looks at me and boom, like it's authenticated, right? Whereas with Touch ID, I always have to make sure I come here and I kind of click this and then I'm in. This device, the iPad Pro, the 11-inch, starts at $1,000. And if you want the 13-inch, that's $1,300.
Yes.
This is a crazy expensive device.
It is.
And this is not even including the Apple Pencil or the Magic Keyboard.
Exactly.
So who do you think this is really for?
First off, I think this is for the student who gets spoiled or who has a lot of money to spend. And they just want the best of the best, because this gives you all the best features that Apple is providing in a tablet. One of the best tablets in the world, if not the best.
Yeah.
So if you are able to, you have the means to, this is for you. If you want better battery life, the fastest chip, you want to future-proof yourself for other things that Apple will create with Apple Intelligence and other software OSs that they put in here, the iPad Pro is for you. Doesn't have to be the 13-inch, it could be the 11. But for most people, there's another one here that I think we should talk about.
All right, which one's that?
I think it's the M2 iPad Air.
iPad Air, so this one right here.
Yes, this one right here.